What's up, guys? John Bird III here. We're back again for another video. Today's video, we got a little treat. We're going to talk about my top 5 favorite fall baits. And we even going to throw in one little extra bait just to kind of make sure you have it ready just in case you come into this type of situation. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell because as I've been mentioning in other videos, we might be changing up the date and the time when we put out these videos. Traditionally, we normally put out the videos on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. But since it's college football season, everybody glued to their TVs watching college football, we might adjust that. So make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever a new video drops. But we're not going to hold you long. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this. But also, just want to put this out there. Make sure you keep your thoughts and prayers out there for everybody that was affected from Hurricane Helen. It was like ridiculously like crazy everything that storm really did to a lot of different areas and how many people it's affected, lights being out, people, trees falling, all kind of stuff. So make sure you keep those people in your thoughts and your prayers whenever you get some time to make sure you pray for them, because that's important. But without further ado, we're gonna jump into the first bait, and that first bait is Buzzbait. So in this right here, we got the Strike King tool grade skipping buzz. If y'all know anything about this bait, Andy Montgomery designed this bait specifically for skipping. And we talked about my buzz bait setup and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail about this particular bait, but you know, like it has this little wire right here that goes up and down, and that basically keeps the buzz bait, allow it to keep its shape. That's essentially what it's for. But a buzz bait is a great bait to have when, especially when you're going down the bank, whether you got, like you see laydowns, if you're watching the college bracket right now as it's going on, and they're fishing on, I think it's Tim Forest Lake in Tennessee, there's a lot of laydowns in them backwater pockets and stuff like that. So this is a great bait to cover a lot of water, especially first thing early in the morning, and it'll allow you, I'm telling you, this is a great bait to use first thing in the morning when you're going down the bank, because you got to think now, shad is starting to migrate. They're starting to push up shallow. And so a buzzbait is a great way to imitate the shad. But not only that, who doesn't love a good top water bite in the fall? So that's why we picked a buzzbait. So if y'all haven't seen my buzzbait setup, make sure you go check that video out so you'll see the actual setup that I use for the buzzbait. But this buzzbait right here is great. Now, people like to modify their buzz baits. You can actually put a toad on here like this one right here if you want it on there, or you could go ahead and put like a swim bait on here, since we having the shad move up shallow. So you can put like a rage swimmer, like a 375, 325, something like that, depending on the size of the profile you want it to be. So you pick the right size of the shad or rage swimmer that you want to put on there to imitate the shad, and then that's what you need. So make sure you got a buzz bait tied on. The second bait, again, we're trying to cover water. We're trying to figure out where they at. So the second bait is going to be a KVD 1.0. So this bait right here, this is a neat little bait. So I actually got this tip from one of my favorite pros, and he talked about how a 1.0 is a great fish catcher in the fall, because you got to think the shad are super small. So this 1.0 size crankbait is actually a good size crankbait that will allow you to be able to get bites. And think about this, and we're going to mention this in my, I guess I'm calling it my finesse flipping video. I'm going to do a video on my finesse flipping setup. Not that much different from my traditional flipping setup, but it's very important. So sometimes you just want to generate bites. That's what it's all about. Everybody's throwing you know, your big 1.5, well, it's not big, but your 1.5, 2.5, stuff like that. Everybody's throwing like normal size baits or bigger. And sometimes just to generate bites to get fish in a boat, you got to downsize. So a KVD 1.0 is a great bait to downsize to, and that it would just generate bites. So a color that I would recommend is Sexy Shad 2.0. Sexy blueback herring, that's another one of my favorite colors. Natural shad, any type shad pattern. Again, we're trying to generate shad patterns, and because we want to imitate the bait fish, match the hatch. But this color right here, this is basically a perch color. I forget the exact name of it, but this color right here is very unique because you got to think like chartreuse kind of sticks out to a fish in the water because it kind of gives off a hue of white in some way, shape, or form. So KVD 1.0 is a great bait to throw this fall, especially like I said, you're trying to generate bites, throw it around docks, just like you would throw anywhere else you would throw your traditional square bill. Just throw this little sucker around. I promise you to get bit. We have a setup video coming out very soon that you definitely want to keep your eyes out for to throw this little bait on. I promise you, it's a fun setup to fish with, but I promise you, these little baits like this definitely get bit. Again, sticking with the shad pattern, you want to throw a jerk bait, but this jerk bait is a little bit different, and you haven't heard me talk about it. That is the Mock Nation work bait. So this work bait or jerk bait, this is the 90 size, and it only comes in this one size. So this only dives a foot to 3 feet. So this is, I would consider, a shallow running jerk bait. So again, shad are pushing up shallow. They're pushing into the backs of the creek. So you throw this little itty bitty jerk bait out there, and I'm gonna just be honest with you, it's gonna get big because especially the profile size. So just like we mentioned with the KVD 1.0, talking about downsizing a little bit. Now, granted, the Buzzbait is a bigger bait, but I did say you can also alternate the size of the trailer that you put on there. So if you take the toad off of there, put a raised swimmer on there, you can compact that size, or you can just put a bigger one on there. But this one right here, again, it mimics some of that smaller bait. It's very slender, it's very small, and again, it will catch them. Now, one thing I like about all of the mock hard baits is that they come with upgraded hooks. So this bait here has the KVD Mustad triple grip hooks on there. So these baits, if they bite this, you're gonna get great hook penetration on the fish, and those fish are not gonna be able to shake this bait. It's very, like I said, the slender profile is very great, and most importantly, the color pattern. So this is the Sexy Shad 2.0 color pattern. And I think this color pattern, in my personal opinion, is awesome because when the light hits it just right, it gives off a great sparkle from the glitter flake that's on here. And again, it imitates that shad. Like, you can't go nowhere in the country without throwing some form of Sexy Shad or Sexy Shad 2.0, some type of shad pattern. I mean, point blank period. Whatever your favorite jerkbait, crankbait company is, they have some form of a shad pattern. And so having that is very important this time of the year. Now, would I throw this on my traditional jerkbait setup? Probably not, if I had to be honest with you. Just simply because of the weight of it and it's small. Jerkbaits are already hard to throw as is. So one thing you can do to kind of mitigate that is you can throw this on a spinning rod. And once they hit it on the spinning rod, of course, it's going to load very well. You got the drag, all of that. So that's going to be perfect to throw the mock work bait. But don't get me wrong, you can throw it on a bait caster. So if you have like a BFS setup, that is something I would recommend for this. Now, of course, this is bigger than your traditional BFS baits. And if you want to throw a Bitsy style jerkbait, Strike King has the Bitsy jerkbait. And so it's definitely smaller than this, but you can throw this on a BFS setup. And so again, it's a great all around bait, and it even has, if you can hear that, it got some rattles in it. So of course, sound is great. It gives off vibration, all that. So you got a great tight waddling action of it. And it also is just a great bait to throw when you're going down the bank. You're finding those shallow pockets where there's a lot of bait built up back there. So again, this is the bait that a lot of people don't talk about, but another option that you can potentially use is the KVD 100 jerkbait. But this is a great option to have in your boat. Next one. So now we're going to talk about fishing cover, shallow water cover. I guess you could say like lay down, stuff like that, stumps, stuff like that. And that is going to be a jig. And this jig right here is the Strike King Denny Brauer structure jig. Man, this jig right here is a awesome jig. Now, there's one thing I don't like about it, just to be transparent. is the bait keeper. I feel like that bait keeper is just too big. And personally, like with jigs, I like either a screw lock or like on the Thunder Cricket, it has the little wire, the wire shape bait keeper on there. I like those type bait keepers. But your traditional, lead style bait keepers is fine. But I feel like this one's just a little bit too big. But I really love the jig for one because of the head shape. That head shape is very good for coming through cover. It comes through cover very, very well, and I like that. And the other thing I like about the bait right here, in particular, this particular jig, is the hook, because this is a owner hook, and this particular hook that this is, it's the owner offset wide gap worm hook, and it's 3x strong, and it has the cutting edge point, so it's basically has like 3 angles of it, and that is why I love this hook. That hook, the actual owner hook, I use that a lot for Texas rig worms and stuff like that, and I really enjoy fishing that hook in particular. And so when I started using these a while ago, the moment I looked at the hook, I knew exactly what hook that was just by looking at the point of it. And then before on the packaging, you can look at the hook. And before on the packaging, you actually see it says owner. So that's another reason how I knew exactly what hook this was. So I don't lose fish on that hook. I'm just be honest. That hook is great. And so you put the right trailer on here, it'll be great. Like Trey McKinney likes to throw the baby version of this jig. And that's a great option too in the fall because again, you're trying to downsize. But he throws a peanut butter and jelly baby Denny Brown structure jig, and he puts a baby Rage Menace on there, and he freaking whacks them across the country on that jig, no matter what it is. And so you can put your traditional Rage Menace on here and do the same thing. I personally like the Rage Bug over the Menace because I feel like it just skips a lot better because of the flatter surface. But another trailer I've been playing around with a good bit this year has been the Rage Scound Bug. So whether you're doing I think it's like 3.5 inch, or whether you do the 4 inch, like either one, depending on where you are, your forest, how big the crayfish is there or anything like that, you can get away with either one of them. So whatever your favorite jig trailer is, put that on there. The only reason I didn't put a trailer on here because I'm like, people gonna put their favorite trailer on there anyway. So whatever your favorite trailer is, make sure you put that on there. But most importantly, we're just gonna talk about the jig itself. So it comes through brush very well. It comes through docks very well. Again, because of that pointed head, it allows it to really just be able to get through cover very, very well. The flat head on it allows it to skip really well. And so again, when you pair it with the flat head, pair it with like a Rage Book that's already flat, it's going to skip like a dream. And so you can slide this sucker way back under docks, especially when you got them fish that are really tucked under them docks. You can really slide this sucker up under there and get bit. This particular color right here is Blue Crawl. That's a great color you can throw all around the country. Like Blue Crawl is a great color, and I don't know why that sucker get bit so much, but it's just a great color. So you pair Blue Crawl Denny Brown structure jig paired with a Blue Crawl Rage Bug, it's like, oh my God, it's just like instantly bite getter, and you're gonna fish it with confidence. So make sure you check out this jig. Great jig to have. The final bait, well, it's not the final bait, but the 5th bait that we're gonna talk about is the drop shot. And right here, KVD filler worms. So, drop shot. I mean, y'all already know what time it is. Y'all done seen me talk about drop shot. I hate the drop shot, but I have a lot of confidence in it. The reason why I hate the drop shot, full transparency, if I have not actually said why I hate the technique, it's because it's on a spinning rod. Like, I don't like throwing a spinning rod a whole lot. I mean, I just don't. I would rather use big line, a bigger rod, a heavier power. Like, that's the way I like to fish. So I don't necessarily like the drop shot, but I've gained a lot of confidence fishing the drop shot. Probably over the last, whenever I put that video out, so probably about the last year or so, I've gained a lot of confidence on it. I've caught some big ones on there this year in a tournament earlier this year. I caught a 7.5 pound on a drop shot, and I've caught some big fish on there. I've caught some small fish on there. I caught plenty of fish using the drop shot. So I have confidence in it. I know in certain situations, if I ever come across that particular type deal, I can pick up the drop shot and instantly toss that sucker out there, and I feel confident that I can get bit. And then Other than that, I put it down, I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. But the drop shot is a bait that you have to have tied on. To me personally, I'm going to say year round. Like, there are certain times of the year I feel like you're going to get more bites, especially like pre-spawn, and that spawn is like really, really getting close. If you're going down the bank, hit them docks with the drop shot and try to, it's hard, it's hard to skip a drop shot, like almost impossible to be honest with you. But if you can get that sucker way up under them docks, they will bite that sucker. But make sure you got the right rod to get them up out of there. And of course, my favorite rod is the Zona All-Purpose Signature Series rod. Like, plenty of backbone. It has an extra fast tip, but it's a medium power rod. And the weight that I normally put on the drop shot is a 3/8. So heavier, easier to cast, make you make further casts. And for me, I just feel like I can get up tighter with the heavier weight versus something smaller. But that's just my personal preference. You got to figure out what works for you. But again, drop shot. Whatever your favorite color worm is, Morning Dawn, Green Pumpkin, I guess, you know, some brand, they got Aaron's Magic. Whatever your favorite drop shot worm is, it don't really matter. Make sure you just got a drop shot tied on and put your favorite worm on there. And the last bait we're going to talk about, which is an extra that I feel like if you catch it in the right scenario, this will get big bites. That is the frog. So this is the KVD Sexy Frog. And so where in this particular situation will the frog actually come into play? That is going to be wherever the grass is dying, fish grass lines, grass edges, like it just grass, like if you see where there's grass patches, a little smaller patches, but even some massive or bigger patches, throw the frog around there, because those fish are all the way around there. Bait move up in the grass and stuff like that. You have bluegill, of course, up under there. So a frog is a great way to cover water wherever you find an area where the grass is dying. So you need to be able to have a bait to throw through there. You can't throw the buzzbait because the grass is going to get all up in the blade, and so it's not going to work right. Of course, you can't throw anything with treble hooks in there. The jig, you can, if you throw a swim jig, of course, you can swim the jig through there. That would be a great option. But once it's dying and it's matted over across the top, the only thing you're really going to be able to fish with that, unless you're pitching the holes of the grass, is a frog. So this will allow you to cover a lot of water, but hopefully be able to allow you to get some really, really big bites in the fall. So make sure you have a frog tied on. Whatever your favorite frog is, I would say personally, I would say go with a frog that has a white bottom because of the shad. Point blank period, I would throw a white frog all day long. Now, some people may disagree. So if you have a different option that you feel like you should throw in the fall for a frog, leave that comment down below, and I want to hear what your thought process is. But personally, for me, I would throw a white frog. Just again, you're trying to imitate shad. So a white frog or a frog, it don't matter what the top is, because the top, personally, the top is for the angler. Like, that's it. It's not for the fish. The top is for the angler. But any frog that has a white bottom, a grayish bottom, but a lightish grayish bottom, not like a smoked dark gray, but a lightish grayish bottom, is going to work for catching fish over that dead grass. So make sure you have frog with some type of white bottom. I mean, you can even get away. It doesn't matter if it's a walking frog or a popping frog. You kind of got to play the situation kind of by ear, but make sure you throw a white frog. So another sneaky little bait that you can do, and we're talking about smaller bait fish, is the pipsqueak frog. So smaller frog, smaller situation, but again, white, 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 white. Can't get enough of white. So that is my reasoning for the frog. So that's it for today's video. If you have any other baits that you feel like will work good in fall, make sure you leave them down in the comment section. We want to continue to grow as anglers. Again, this channel right here is geared towards not only rods and reels and trying to find the right rod and reel for the technique, but also we're trying to grow as anglers. So make sure you leave the comment of your favorite bait to throw in the fall. I know there are some that I could have put in there, and I kind of toyed with which ones to go with or whatever, but in my personal opinion, I feel like these baits right here are the best ones that I feel like can work. And then, of course, also keep this in mind too. Anytime you're watching these videos on YouTube, every channel is talking about their top baits for the fall, but you also have to think about it from this perspective. What region of the country is that person in, and what lakes do they fish? Because what may work in Florida might not work in South Carolina, or it might not work in Alabama or in Missouri or Virginia. Like, it really depends. So make sure you keep that thought in the back of your head, because I've often watched YouTube videos and I go out and buy these baits and try it, and especially in these situations, and it didn't work. The reason, and personally, I feel like it didn't work is because the lakes that they're fishing is different from the lakes that I'm fishing. And if you know anything about Lake Murray, the blueback herring, it's a totally different deal. Those lakes, those blueback herring lakes, are different. But these are baits, again, that I feel like will work well in my region of the country, the lakes that I fish. So if you're in the South Carolina area, work great. But also there are some of these baits that will translate over no matter where you are in the country, like the jig, the 1.0. Again, if you got grass in your lakes, you got the frog. But if the frog don't work and you don't have grass, again, you can throw the work bait, the buzz bait. You can throw in a sexy dog junior, the bitsy dog. Shoot, if you really just want to try to get the biggest bites possible, freaking mega dog. But again, I'm like, remember, keep that in mind. Whatever region of the country you're in, you also have to keep that in the back of your mind when you're deciding the bait. So this is just a general overview of my top baits, but I feel like they will work in my region of the country, and someone will apply in other lakes in other parts of the country. But anytime you watch any of these videos across YouTube talking about the best baits for a particular time of the year, also keep that in mind as well. So that's it for today's video. Those are my top baits. So again, just keep all that stuff in mind. I'm JB3. I got to get back to living the dream. I'll catch you later.